Hey everybody, Puzzle Max here, and welcome to or welcome back to my channel. Um, Today I'm going to be taking a look at one of my favorite genres of puzzle, edge turners. There's a ton of different kinds out there, and even some great shape mods that are based on that same edge turning mechanism, but you'd never know it just by looking at them. Um, the helicopter cube over here is one of the most basic edge turners. And then right next door is the Curvy Copter. This one is pretty much exactly the same as the helicopter cube, but it has a fixed edge here in the middle. Because of that, it's a little more complicated in a way, but at the same time, it's almost easier because you have something to follow. You have a guide there. So I'm going to be taking a look at a solution on this and kind of giving you some details on how things work along the way. One thing to note here, this is a 12-axis puzzle. Each face has 4 edges that can turn, and it is a jumbling puzzle. What that means is that you can take it and really screw up the shape. It's a lot of fun because of that, and if you scramble this puzzle using just 180-degree turns of all of these edges, then there's no problem. You can solve it using just those 180-degree moves. But if you get a little more complicated and start doing some jumbling moves throughout the solve, or throughout the scramble rather, then you will most likely have to use those jumbling moves to solve the puzzle. You can use jumble moves that do not really take the puzzle out of cube shape. Keeps it into that same cube shape, but it also will require you to use those jumbling moves during the solve. So let's go over a couple of basic things here that I'm going to be talking about and using. The first thing is the just single jumble. It's a jumbling move that's going to swap these two pieces, but leave them in the same orbit. What I mean by orbit is if I just move this piece 180 degrees, that red piece moved from here up to here. And it can cycle all the way around the puzzle and will eventually end up right back where it started. That orbit plays a big role in solving this puzzle and keeping track of where things are and how things need to move. So the single jumble move is going to swap these two pieces, leaving them in the same orbit, but it's also going to swap this piece with this piece, taking both of them out of their current orbits and putting them into a new orbit. And in order to do that, it's just a upright 1. What I mean by that is just moving it into its first jumbling position, and a front left 1 inverse, moving it down into its first jumbling position, and then a 180-degree turn of the up front edge. And then when you undo those little moves there, and undo that up front 180, you can see that nothing else has been touched but these two pieces that have swapped and stayed in their orbits, and this blue and this green have swapped places into completely different orbits. I can't get this green piece back to this slot without doing a jumbling move somewhere else or right here again. You can do that jumble move with starting with the up left and the front right, or there's lots of variations you can do to it, but you just have to kind of play with it and figure it out on your own for a lot of those. But the basic one is the one I showed you. I'm not going to be using notation for most of this, as it's more a intuitive puzzle that you kind of have to play with and see what moves need to be done, because it's really hard to write algorithms for a puzzle with these types of moves. So you do that again, and then you can undo that, and everything's back where it belongs. The other move that's possible that doesn't really play a big role in this, but does come in for the last layer, is the double jumble. And what that does is it's going to swap these left and right, and swap these. But then when you do it again, it's going to swap these two and these two back where they belong. So essentially, the double jumble takes this corner and swaps them, and this center of the edge and flips it over. So you start that the same way. So the front left, inverse 1, the upright 1, both of those just into their first jumbling positions. You do a 180-degree turn of that up front edge, bring these back, and then do the same basic thing, but this time you want to start on up left, and this is a up left 1 inverse, bringing that into its first slot, first jumbling slot, and then a front right 1 inverse, bringing that into its first jumbling position. Then you do another 180 on that up front piece, bring those back. Looks like you've swapped both of these, but if you put those back into place, you can see that you can still fix the yellow and red, but now these two corners have swapped places, and the edge in the middle here has swapped place. That comes in much more handy, again, like I said, for the last layer, fixing these, but on the regular helicopter cube, that same set of moves plays a much bigger role in the last layer, because you might end up with a situation where you just need to switch two corners. And that's what it does here. Since there's nothing in the middle to be in the wrong place, you've just swapped those two corners there. So get that back where it belongs. If I can. There we go. All right. So a lot to take in, but it will start making more sense the more you get your hands on it and the more you play with it, because it really is a simple concept of a puzzle that makes a lot of sense once you kind of wrapped your head around how things move and what you need to move. For scrambling this, I'm going to do a full scramble with jumble moves and then mix it up with the jumbles so that it's no longer in a cube shape. A couple of the online timers actually have scrambles for this puzzle, or any helicopter puzzle. QQ timer, I think CS timer might have one. But these scrambles that they give you are made specifically to do just 180-degree turns on everything. So in order to get a scramble with some jumble moves, I kind of do this my own way. I do follow this computer-generated one just because it makes it make more sense for me, but I'll show you where I go. So I'm just going to do a few of these and then do some jumble moves and then keep going with the computer scramble. So, and this is very easy to follow. It's just two-letter notation. So back left is the back left of the puzzle. Upright is the upright of the puzzle. Just follow along, and it makes sense once you've done it a few times. So I'm going to start this off with back left, upright, up front, down back, back right, down left, up back, up right, down front, back left, down right. So doing a bunch of moves there. Now I'm just going to do some of those single jumbles. So I'm going to do one here. My goal being to get back to this red as my front. And I know it's red because all four of the edges involved in this face have a red piece. So I'm going to do some of the single jumble moves and then turn the cube, do another single jumble, turn it again, another one, and now I'm back to the red. So I'm just going to continue with the computer scramble, and hopefully you can get it from there and understand what's going on. So. Okay, done all that, got everything broken apart, did a bunch of jumble moves in the process. Now I'm just going to turn a single one of these up to a jumble position and follow through. This puzzle does bandage pretty quickly, so you may not be able to do a ton of moves using the full jumble of the scramble here. But it's a cool start, and it's kind of fun to just play around with and do some extra turns and make it look as really messed up as you possibly can. Let's see. And like I said, it does bandage pretty quickly. Alright, I think that looks pretty good. So, next step is to start the scramble. Sorry, just finished the scramble. Let's start the solve. Alright, now you've got this lovely bundle of plastic and stickers, and you want to get it back to cube shape. That's the first main step here, because you can't really do much when it's all screwed up here. So the first thing you want to use is the center of the edges. Those are going to be your guides for most of this solve, and for this, they're going to be your guide for getting things back to a cube. You just want to take them and get them flat. So you had 3 flat there already. Move this one back, and this one here, and let's turn that like that, so that flattens out there nicely. The next step is to fix these parts that are sticking out. This is the way you want them to be. You want one pointing towards you, one pointing to your right. When you have that system or that setup, if you just bring this one up and then do a full 180 on the front, it'll line those up, and now things are back to a cube shape. I'm not worried about colors here yet or anything like that. My main concern at this point is just making things easier to look at and easier to follow. So let's say you get a situation where it's, let me set this up a little bit different. So let's say you get a situation like this, where they're both pointing out the other directions. You can just move this around this way and this around here, and they're set up where this one's pointing out to your left and this one's pointing straight at you, and do the same thing on this side to bring everybody together. This seems like the most difficult thing in the entire world the first time you do it. Sometimes it's going to just be really easy, you're going to get lucky and it's just going to work. Other times you're going to fiddle around with it for what seems like the longest part of the solve. But it will always come back to cube shape, as long as you didn't break it while you were doing the scramble. The next step is to fix everybody on one face. Doesn't matter what color you start with. Red's my favorite color for a lot of these puzzles, so I'm going to go with the red. And because the centers of these edges don't move, they don't go anywhere, they're your center of the axis, you'll just have to rotate those so that you have 4 of the same colors pointing towards each other. So I've got all 4 of my reds facing each other. I'm not worried about anybody else on the puzzle yet. I just want to get everything red. Well, not quite everything. I'm not going to worry about corners yet. But these are just a matter of using some common sense and maybe a jumble move or two in order to put things into spots where they can rotate and fit into this face here. So all of my other red petals here, these are the centerpieces. I call them petals because they give me flower vibes. They're all on top. They're all opposite the red. So if I do a 180 there, now if I follow the orbit of this red petal, I can see that if I bring it down here with a 180 and then do another, it'll end up here. But if I just do that, then not only do I take out something I already had solved, but I screw up this center of this edge that was correct as well. So I can't do that. However, if I put this pedal back up here, out of the way, that means I can rotate this freely without screwing up anything. So if I rotate this one up to here, now that blue one is in the same orbit that this red one's in. So I can bring this red one down and pair it up with the red edge and this other pedal that's correct. So just like that, paired those up, and you need to continue that for everybody else around the puzzle. So this red one here, if I do a 180 here, I see that it'll come to this spot, and then I can use that orbit and bring it down here. But again, that messes up the center of the edge that I was working with. So I need to do pretty much the same thing I just did. Get that pedal up to the top. This is all dead space. I don't have anything up here solved, so I can use these top edges as much as I want without risking screwing something else up. But now I can bring this red and yellow edge, just do a 180. And then when I bring this pedal down here, it will pair up with the red and yellow edge, and then I can undo that 180 there. And now that's done. So 3 of the 4 pedals are in place, and all of my edges are still turned correctly. So 1 edge left, or 1 pedal left. If I bring this down here, and bring this down here, it just so happens that it's in the correct orbit. So I can do the exact same thing here, and just bring this up to here, bring this pedal down, match it up, and then undo that 180 turn that I did on the red-green edge, and it's good to go. But say, for example, you didn't get that lucky. And let's just swap this. Say, for example, you had this red pedal in the top, but if you turned it with a 180 down to here, the orbit that it's in is an already solved slot. Well, that doesn't work because that's already done. I don't need to fix that. And let's see if I put it back on the top and then bring it down this way. Same thing. Darn it. It's next to where it needs to go, but the orbit that it's in is already solved. So, how do I move this red pedal into a spot that I can put it into this place? So I've got to move it to a new orbit, which means I'll have to use that single jumble move. And this is where you've got to start using your brain a little bit. So if I were to bring this green piece, which is the empty slot where that red pedal needs to go, if I bring this green piece up to here, and then bring it up to here, that green piece is there, and then I move it up to here, that same green piece is now here. So that's the orbit that I need to get that red piece into. So let's get this red piece back up to the top. I need to get that red piece into the slot where this yellow piece is. Because of the way this puzzle moves and the way that single jumble works, I'm not worried about messing anything on this top layer up, because everything down here is fine. I still have dead space up here. I can use this space as much as I want. If I bring this red piece down to this spot, then I know with that single jumble, I can move it across to here, which I can also see that if I do a 180 turn on this upright edge, that space can end up where that yellow piece is. So if I just bring this down here and then do that single jumble move, so the front left one and the upright one into their first jumbling positions, and then a 180 degree turn of that up front edge, fix those, bring this around to here. Now that red piece moved from here to here. Now if I bring it down to here, I can see that when I bring this green piece up to this slot, I can then bring this red pedal down And what do you know? My entire red face is done. Corners, not quite worried about yet. Those will come in in a little bit. They're very important as well for this bottom half, but they're very easy, so we'll get there in a second. So next step is you need to go around the middle of the puzzle and fix all of the edge centers. So if I use my red face and the other colors attached to the red edges, this is red black, so I know that these need to be black. So if I turn this one 180, now you can see those line up. All my blues are good, yellows are good, and greens are good. And all of those are fixable by just doing 180-degree turns. They're very easy to find. You just have to use the color at the bottom as your guide. So the next step here is to fix these petals on the bottom half of the puzzle, closest to the red face that I just fixed. And these are a little more complicated because you will likely have to use that that jumble move. But the advantage here is that this top half of the puzzle is still dead space. You don't have anything up there to worry about keeping solved or breaking apart or anything. So you can do those jumble moves up at the top as much as you want, and you're not going to risk hurting the face that you've already solved at the bottom. So for this black, start here. The bottom right petal here is already in the right space, so that's fine. Let's leave that alone. But now I need to get a black petal here. In order to do that, I need to have a black petal in this back space, because that's the same orbit as what I'm working with. So in order to do that, let's get a black petal up into the top face. So there we go. And using that same move that I showed a little bit ago, if you move this, you can move this black petal from here to here by just doing a single jumble move that involves turning this down to the left-hand side and then doing a single jumble that'll move that black petal across and to the top, but now it's in the back, so I know that it's in the same orbit as where I need to put it. In order to put that in, you just do a 180 on that, and then a 180 here to line that petal up with the edge, and then undo that move, and you're good to go. You do that all around the bottom half of the puzzle. Same thing here, this bottom left petal is already in the right place for the blue, and what do you know, we've already got a blue petal in the back right, which is the correct orbit for where it needs to go. So in order to start that, you do a 180 of this blue and yellow edge. Then you can pair up this blue petal right in there, and then undo that first 180, and you've got those petals in. Repeat this over and over again, and you will eventually get this entire bottom layer done. So this yellow one, I happen to have a petal up there. If I bring this around, I can bring that petal down to line up with the yellow. And doing so, I didn't mess up any of the blues that I already had correct. Next thing, let's see. I need a yellow petal that can go here. If I do this, I've got a couple of yellow petals in the top face. This one is across from the space where I need it to be, across diagonally, which means I would have to do that jumble move twice in order to move it from here to here and then here to here. But this one is right next to the spot that I need it to go. So if I just do that jumble move once involving this piece, I can bring this down, do the single jumble, and then, lo and behold, that yellow piece is now in the back right, and I can put it here by just doing a 180, bringing that petal around and down, and then undoing that 180 that I did with the yellow-green piece. Now, let's see what we got here. Let's put some green pieces onto the top, all the green petals, as many of them as I can get there. And what do you know, I got lucky here as well. So this, I have a green piece in the back left of the top face, so I can do that same thing. Just bring this around, bring this down, line it up, and undo that. Didn't mess up any of my yellow petals. And same thing over here. I bring this this slot up to here. I can bring this petal down, pair it up with that green edge, and then undo that. And there you have it. All of the petals and all of the edges around that first layer are complete. Next step is to fix the corners of the bottom layer. Since I know red is my bottom face, I need to find a corner in the top that has red. And here we go. I've got the red, yellow, and green corner hanging out here. So what I want to do is, just using 180 moves, you can move that corner all around the top face. So I want to put that above the spot that it needs to go. So yellow, green, red, yellow, green, red. This needs to go right here. In order for this to work correctly, you need to have red facing up, so that when you turn it down, the red lines up with the red at the bottom. This is very easy. Once you put that corner over top of where it belongs, just look at it and figure out what direction it needs to rotate. This one here needs to rotate counterclockwise, just once. And in order to do that, if you move it around the puzzle counterclockwise back to this spot, it will rotate counterclockwise. So I'm going to take this and go counterclockwise, so from here to here, here to here, and here to here, and then back to here. So if I just go 180 turn, 180 turn, 180, and 180. And now that is lined up with the red facing up on top of the spot that it needs to go. So next step, you need to get this down to here. Easy enough, just do that, but oh no, that doesn't work. It obviously takes things that you already have solved out of their correct spots. So what we need to do here is move this piece out of the way. So I'm just going to do a 180 turn here, keeping track of it. I want to know where it's at. Then I want to bring these groups of petals up to the top, just with a 180 there. Now I can bring this corner back over to here, and when I do that, you'll see that the green lines up. But in doing so, I took the yellow petal out. But because this top face is still completely dead space, I can just move this out of the way now and bring that yellow petal back into the correct spot. And because these moves don't interfere with each other, when I do when I undo that move that I did, it'll pair all of those back up, and the red is now with the yellow and green petals that it needs to be with. And so I can undo that 180 that I did there, and it'll bring that red, green, and yellow corner down to the correct spot. So up here I've got the red, yellow, and blue corner, another situation where I need to rotate it counterclockwise in order for the red to be facing up on this top face. So if I just move it around the puzzle counterclockwise, get it back to where it belongs, it will rotate that corner counterclockwise by one click there. So do that, and there you go. And same thing here, I'm just going to get this out of the way. I'm going to bring the space that it needs to go into up. Then I can put that corner in, taking one of those blues out. I got lucky here. I could do this, use this as it stands, but I'm just going to go by muscle memory here and what I would normally do, I would take this out, bring that original blue petal piece back into place, and then bring the corner and that yellow petal piece back in, and then undo that 180, and now the red is correct. So, what else do we got here? Now I've got the red, green, and black. So I'm going to put that over top of the red, green, and black where it needs to go. Now we have another spot where this needs to rotate counterclockwise by one spot. This works obviously clockwise as well. If I needed to rotate this clockwise, I would just move it around the puzzle clockwise, and it would rotate it the opposite direction that it does going counterclockwise. So for here, I'm just going to move this around the puzzle on this top face counterclockwise, and lo and behold, it comes back here with red facing up, ready to go. So get it out of the way, bring this up to here. I'm going to bring this red, black, and green corner back in, get it out of the way, then I can bring this green back in, and then bring that black petal and the corner back into place. Undoing that brings it back down here, and one spot left to go. I've got the red, black, and blue corner that I've got to put in. And I think we got lucky here because it just so happens that red is already facing up, blue and black. So I'm going to bring that space that it needs to be in up to the top here. Bring that red, black, and blue corner around. Get it out of the way. Bring that black petal that I was working with in. Bring this back around. And now I can bring that down. And what do you know? The bottom half of the puzzle is solved. So now is where things do get a little bit harder to follow, and you will start having to use that jumble move, almost guaranteed. So hopefully you've kept up until this point and have a pretty good idea of what was accomplished there. We've made it to my favorite part of the solve. Here we need to fix all of the petals of this top half. This is very difficult the first time, but it will get much easier once you kind of understand what you're looking at. So first thing you need to do is just pick a color. Doesn't matter where you go, and it also, for now, doesn't matter whether these are rotated correctly or not. Because if you remember from before, that double jumble move that we were doing, where you go from both directions, essentially rotates the middle of this edge. So you can use that later to fix these if they're upside down. So since I've already got one in place over here, let's start with green. This green petal is in the right spot, but I need to get this green petal here. In order to do that, let's figure out what the orbit is. So if I move this around, that's where I need this green petal to be sitting. I need this green petal here. The easiest way to do that is to just move it around. When you're first starting this, it doesn't matter what you swap this with. It's just a matter of getting this first color complete and this first face, the petals on this first face, done. So I'm going to bring this down to here. I'm going to do a jumble move, and that'll put it over to here. So let's do that. Do a single jumble. Undo that 180, and then bring this back up. If you see here, it obviously flipped this 180 degrees, but we're not worried about that yet. So the next step is to bring this and this, because I want to move this green piece to this space If I just move this down here, it's going to swap with whatever's on the left. So if I put this on the left, then I know that that's going to swap places. And also, probably worth noting, because this is orange, and I know this is my orange face, it's not going to hurt anything else that's correct. So if I put orange opposite green when I do these 180s, and do the single jumble move, and then undo both of those, it brought that green piece back up to here. But because that single jumble swapped some other stuff, it also brought this one that was here down. It's hard to lose track here. But as you can see, what I've accomplished here is that this green piece is now in the same orbit as this orange piece, this empty space that it needs to go, and this one is in the right spot. So now I can move this green out of the way, bring this around, bring the green back, they're together, and I can bring them in, and now all the greens are complete. You will have to redo some of these as you go, because since when you do that jumble move, since these swap, even though they stay in the same orbit, you're going to move some of those inadvertently. You're not going to be trying to, it's just going to happen. So next step, let's go over here. This yellow is already in with the yellow face, and I've got this yellow here that once again I need to get here because that's the same orbit as the empty space that it needs to go to. So in order to do that, I'm going to do the same thing where I just bring this down to here. But if I bring this yellow down here and then just do the jumble move, it's going to take this green that's already correct out of its space. So since I have orange as the top, I'm going to use this orange piece and put it on the right. Do that, and then bring this yellow one and put it down on the left. So now when I do that single jumble, that yellow and that orange are going to swap places. First thing I want to do is undo this right-hand side because that didn't mess anything up there, nothing swapped. And now I can undo this front that I did the 180 on. That'll bring that yellow back around to here. So now that's there. Now this yellow I need to get here so that it'll be in the same orbit. Because I don't have blue solved yet, I'm not worried about using this as a swap piece. So if I bring this yellow down to the left, and then this blue down to the right, now I can do a single jumble, and then I can undo this and undo this, and now that yellow is in the correct orbit in order for it to go here. But if I just move it out of the way and then move it in, what do you know, I took a green out of place. So what's the best way to do this? Well, here's where you have to remember that the orientation of these isn't really all that important. Your main goal here is to get all of the petals in place. So if I bring this up to the top, it'll put this yellow piece down here where it needs to go. And then, because I haven't solved this blue yet, I can move this petal out of the way, then bring this back up to the top, and then I can bring that petal back in, and now they're side by side, and I can put them together on the yellow face. It's hard to keep track of because you naturally, I wanted to make sure that these were always correct. But once I kind of realized that I didn't need to focus so much on making sure that the centers of these edges stayed correct, I only wanted the petals to get correct, it was much easier to follow. So now we've got blue. And here, neither one of these blue pieces are in the correct orbits to end up down here. This one needs to go here in order to switch down to here, and this one needs to go here in order to switch down to here. So we're going to go the same way we've been doing things. I'm going to bring this blue one down to the left, and I'm going to bring this black down to the right, because I don't have the black solved yet. So if I bring this down, and then do a jumble move, good to go there. I'm going to fix this right-hand side, and then I'm going to fix this front that I did, and now I want to repair this green. I want to bring that back down. And now I've got a blue piece that is in the correct orbit so that I can bring it down to here. So now this blue piece I need to put here so that I can bring it around to this space so that everybody's in the same orbit. If I do that same thing but from this side, I can bring this blue piece to this space, which is where it needs to go. So if I bring this down and then bring this down, I can swap this orange with this blue by just doing a single jumble. Let's fix this green. Now here, it looks like you've messed up the yellow and everything's all screwed up here, but it's much safer than you realize. So if I get this yellow out of the way first so that I can bring this blue back up to the top and simultaneously pair it up with the other blues, then when I undo that to fix that blue face, it also brings that yellow back together. This will happen a lot of times, and it's very, very helpful, but can be kind of hard to see the first couple of times you're looking at this. So bring that yellow back down. So now my green petals are good, my yellow petals are good, my blue petals are good, and now the black. One of them is already in the correct spot, and this one here, I need to get to this spot so that I can bring it down to here. So same thing, I'm going to bring this black down to the right, I'm going to bring this orange down to the left, I'm going to do a single jumble move here, just like that. I will fix this yellow, and we have that same situation we were looking at a second ago, where this blue needs to go here, this black needs to go over here. But if I take this blue out of this space first, bring this black up to here, then that black is paired up together, and then when I fix the black, it pairs up the blues. So now those blue petals are correct as well. Now here, all you have to do is fix the centers of the edges here by doing those double jumble moves. But say for a minute that you didn't get quite that lucky, and you ended up with a situation that looks something like this. Let's see, if I do that and then do that, where these two are swapped, but they're in the correct orbits. So that black I can put there, that blue I can put there, but no matter how many weird turns and screw-up thingies I attempt to do here, it never seems to line up. The pieces don't seem to want to fall into place correctly, and it's just not working. This is a spot where, even though all of the colors up top here are orange, the orange actually do have a correct location on this face. They need to fall into the right orbit as well. Because in this situation, two of them are out of the correct orbit. It means that you're almost there. But what you need to do is first get the entire top face orange. So if I bring this orange up to here, move it out of the way, then bring this orange back up, and bring this back up, now I've got orange on the entire top face. Here's where you have to remember what that jumble move actually does. So what I want to do is bring this orange down to the right-hand side and this orange down to the left-hand side. In doing so, I'm going to make it so that when I do this jumble move, the single jumble, orange is going to swap with orange, which doesn't hurt anything. But because these two pieces also swap, it'll put this black piece down where it belongs, and it'll put this blue piece back where it belongs, still in the correct orbit. So if I just do that and that, bring those around, then I can undo this front turn, and then undo both of these. And orange is still correct, but now all of the black, all the blue, all the yellow, and all the green, all of those petals are where they belong. Now here, all you've got left to do is fix the center edge here, and that's just a double jumble move that I showed in the beginning, where if you do that once, and then do it again from the other side, it'll put all of the petals back where they were, but in turn it will also have flipped this edge. You might have to do that a couple of times. You might have all of these wrong and you have to do that 4 times, but it will do exactly what it's supposed to in just flipping those center of the edges. Next up, all right, you're nearly there. The final step here is to get all of these corners first into place, so where they belong, and then oriented correctly. In this spot, you're either going to have all 4 corners in the wrong spot, you're going to have 3 of them in the wrong spot, or they're all just going to be where they're supposed to be. In this situation, I believe I've got a case where all 4 of them are incorrect. So, the algorithm I'm going to show you here, what it does is it's going to move this corner from here to here, this corner over to here, and this corner is going to jump down to here. It's not a difficult algorithm. It's kind of hard to follow, but once you see it a couple of times, I think you'll understand what it's doing. So the first thing you need to do is just find a corner that needs to move either from here to here, from here to here, or from here to here. Since I've got all 4 wrong, I can only fix one of these, and then I'll have to fix the last 3. It's a pure 3 cycle. It's not going to mess anything else up or anything like that. So I believe this green, orange, and black needs to come down to here. So the way this is, I'm going to use a kind of notation, but first thing you want to do is turn upright, up front, upright, and then turn the up back 180, and then undo those moves you just did. So upright, up front, up back, and then undo that middle move. And now, if you'll see, that green, orange, and black piece is down here where it's supposed to be, and these other 3 are out of place. So this black, orange, and blue needs to go over to here. In doing so, this yellow, orange, and blue will go here, and this green, orange, and yellow will come down here. If it was the other way around, you can do the mirror of this the same way. It does the same thing, but leaves this one protected and just moves them this way. But for now, this needs to go here, this needs to go here, and this needs to go here. So I'm just going to do that same algorithm. Upright, up front, upright. Then I'm going to do up back to swap those around, and then do upright, up front, upright, and undo that final move. So now all 4 corners are where they belong. They're just not quite facing the right way. This next algorithm is also very easy, and it took me a minute to really understand what it was doing, but it makes pretty good sense after I've seen it a few times. What it's going to do is it's going to take the corner in the front left-hand slot and rotate it one slot clockwise, and it's going to take the corner in the back right and rotate it one slot counterclockwise. So this one here needs to rotate counterclockwise in order to be correct. So I'm going to put that the back right because I know that's going to rotate counterclockwise, so I know I can fix that. And lucky enough, this one needs to rotate clockwise one slot. This is also a pure cycle here. It doesn't hurt anything else, so if you need to do setup moves and things like that, you can do those, fix the pieces, and then undo your setup moves. But for this one, this in the front left is going to rotate clockwise, and this back here is going to rotate counterclockwise, fixing both of them. So here you want to do upright, up front, upright, and then up left, up back, up left. And then you do it one more time. Upright, up front, upright, and then up left, up back, up left. And there you have it. It takes those and puts them back where they belong. Essentially what that does is it swaps these first, messing up a bunch of the pedals, but then when you do it from the other side, starting with up left, it swaps them back, still leaving the pedals messed up. But then you start here again, fixing all the pedals, swapping these again, and then you do it from the left again, fixing all the pedals finally, and swapping these back. In doing those multiple swaps, these rotate. So here, this one needs to rotate counterclockwise, which means that the only thing that could possibly happen here is this one needs to rotate clockwise. So do that final step one more time. So upright, up front, upright, up left, up back, up left, and once more, upright, up front, upright, up left, up back, up left, and isn't that a beautiful thing? Fully solved puzzle, ready to be displayed or scrambled again and make your brain hurt some more. I hope that this has been helpful. This is a great starting puzzle if you're looking to get into some edge turners, because even things that don't look like edge turners still use that same basic mechanism on the inside. So you can do some very similar moves, like that jumble move there, and swap things, just like you were doing with those pedal pieces on the Curvy Copter. It's a fun puzzle. I recommend it to anyone interested in edge turners. There's lots of them out there. Go experience and have fun solving, and best of luck.